Hey everyone, here is page 8 of the quadratic notes. I'm going to show you how to write equations given roots, but I want to do a couple of examples just to get you warmed up here. And so let's solve this by hand. Remember, we want to get it set equal to 0 first. And we want to write it in the correct order. This 36 should be at the end. Remember that doesn't have an x next to it, so that needs to be the last term. So I am going to subtract 12x from both sides and then put the 36 and then equals 0. So that's a trinomial, and we need to figure out what multiplies to 36 and adds up to negative 12. Looks like it's going to be negative 6 and negative 6. So we'll cross this out, rewrite this, x squared minus 6x minus 6x plus 36 equals 0. Now we're going to group these two. Take out a GCF, which is x. You're left with x minus 6. Bring down the minus sign. Take out a GCF, which is 6. You're left with x minus 6. And then we're going to finish this off. We got x minus 6 times x minus 6. Oh, looks like another one of those double roots like we had before. No need to do this twice. Just set it equal once to 0, and therefore x equals 6. So here's another quadratic that just has one solution. Let's look at the next one. So you have 3x squared minus 3x minus 60. Now right away I see that I could take a GCF out. So I'm going to do that so my numbers will be a little bit smaller to work with. So I see that I have a GCF of 3. So that's going to be x squared, let's see, minus x. And then we have to figure out how many times 3 goes into negative 60. I think negative 20 equals 0. Now, we're trying to solve for x. So this 3, we could just divide by 3 on both sides, and that's going to go away. 0 divided by anything is still 0. So we have x squared minus x minus 20. That's a whole lot easier to deal with when we have to do our factoring than what we had to begin with. So I need to find numbers that multiply to negative 20 and add up to negative 1. No problem there. That's going to be negative 5 and 4. So we're going to cross this out. I'm going to recopy this. X squared minus 5x plus 4x minus 20 equals 0. So we're going to put these two together, take out a GCF. So x, you're left with x minus 5. Bring down the plus sign, take out a 4. X minus 5 equals 0. So this is x plus 4 times x minus 5 equals 0. This is the 0 product property, so x plus 4 equals 0. X minus 5 equals 0. And so to solve for x, we're going to subtract 4. X equals negative 4. And add 5. X equals 5. So your two solutions, your two x-intercepts for that example are going to be at negative 4 and positive 5. Now, what if we go backwards? So that's what the rest of these notes are all about. Writing quadratic equations given the roots. So let's say that the roots are x equals p and x equals q. We use p and q just to represent any number that we could possibly come up with. The factors for those roots, if you notice, if the answer was negative 4, the factor was x plus 4. If the answer was 5, the factor was x minus 5. Same over here. If the answer is 6, then the factor is x minus 6. So over here, if the root is p, the factor will be x minus p. And if the root is q, then the factor will be x minus q. Okay? So we're working our way backwards. So start with the first example. You're going to write it down like this. They give you 1/2 and -5. So you say x equals 1/2 and x equals -5. That's how you start. So then the factors will be x minus 1/2. And then the opposite of this is going to be x plus 5. So the only thing you have to do now is multiply these. So I'm going to write them next to each other. X minus 1/2 times x plus 5. So we went from here to here. Now we're going to go from here to here, and we're going to multiply. So you FOIL it. X times x is x squared. X times 5 is 5x. Negative 1/2 times x is negative 1/2 x. Negative 1/2 times 5 is negative 5/2. Okay, we're almost done. But we can't have fractions. Gotta have all integers. So do you see that there's a 2 in the bottom here? So to get rid of this, I'm going to multiply everything by 2. Okay, I'm going to multiply everything by 2. So 2x squared. 2 times 5x is 10x. 2 times negative 1/2 is negative 1x. And 2 times negative 5/2 is negative 5. Alright, so we're almost done. All we have to do is combine like terms. Here's some like terms. So it'll be 2x squared. 10x minus x is 9x. And then minus 5. So the goal was to write a quadratic equation that has the given roots of 1/2 and -5. So we go through all of this and we multiply and combine like terms, and at the end this is your answer, and you say y equals 2x squared plus 9x minus 5. So let's check that. Let's see if it actually makes sense. Go to your y equals, put in 2x squared plus 9x minus 5, and hit graph. We should have a parabola that has x-intercepts at -5 and positive 1/2. So here we are, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, -5, and that looks like it's in between 0 and 1, so positive 1/2. It works. Okay, let's do 2 more examples, see if you can get the hang of it. Always ask me questions if you're stuck, but try the examples first. So, given 4 and 5, so x equals 4 and x equals 5. So that means that the factors will be x minus 4 and x minus 5. So now we're going to go from there, x minus 4 times x minus 5. So we're going to FOIL it. X times x is x squared. X times -5 is negative 5x. Negative 4 times x is negative 4x. And negative 4 times negative 5 is 20. Thankfully, I have all integers, so I don't have to worry about fractions for this one. So we're just going to combine like terms. So negative 5x and negative 4x is x squared minus 9x plus 20. Put a y equals in front, and that's your answer. This equation will have solutions of 4 and 5. That's where it'll cross the x-axis. Next example, last example, if x equals 1/2 and x equals 3, then your factors will be x minus 1/2 and x minus 3. Now we're going to multiply them. X minus 1/2 times x minus 3. So x times x is x squared. X times negative 3 is negative 3x. Negative 1/2 times x is negative 1/2 x. And negative 1/2 times negative 3 is positive 3/2. Okay, so this one's got the fractions, but that's okay. We've done this already once. We got to get rid of that 2. So to get rid of it, you're going to multiply everything by 2. So 2 times x squared is 2x squared. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6x. 2 times negative a half is negative x. And 2 times 3/2 is 3. Combine like terms. 2x squared minus, let's see, that's a negative 1, so negative 7x plus 3. So the equation y equals 2x squared minus 7x plus 3 will have roots at 1/2 and 3. So try some of the practice problems and see if you have any questions.